What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Sunday, November 3rd, 2024, and I have an emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now, it is 1300 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from the Middle East. So, more B 52 nuclear bombers were moved to the Middle East last night and today. And this morning, we're hearing a lot of nuclear codes being transmitted to tactical units. So these nuclear codes are providing targeting information for these B 52 nuclear bombers that are going overseas, possibly to strike Iran. And also, Iran may have tested a nuclear warhead last night. There was a very strange 4.6 or 4.8 magnitude earthquake, depending on which source you look at, in north central Iran, not far from Tehran. And this 4.6 to 4.8 magnitude earthquake had no aftershocks and a very unusual seismogram, and the actual earthquake epicenter occurred right next to a well-documented Iranian missile test range, okay? So I'm going to show you guys some things related to that. But first I want to talk about these B-52s. So we do know that the U.S. was supposed to move about a dozen B-52s to the Middle East because of the situation with Iran and Israel. It does look like Iran is planning some kind of massive attack on Israel, okay? The supreme leader of Iran has already ordered this strike, so it could happen any hour or any day. We know that Iran has closed the airspace around Tehran from November the 4th through November the 6th, which is interestingly right around the election here in the U.S. Also, right around the election, the U.S. is going to be testing a Minuteman III ICBM on the night of the election, okay, from 2300 hours Pacific time on November the 5th, which is Tuesday night, through Wednesday morning, okay? Very interesting, and we know that Russia tested their entire nuclear triad. Last week, they tested an RS-24 Yars land-based ICBM, which is their newest ICBM for land-based platforms. Then they also tested a Bulava missile, which is their latest submarine-launched ballistic missile. And then they also tested their Tu-160 and Tu-95 strategic bombers, which are part of the air leg of their nuclear triad. And now suddenly the U.S. is testing a Minuteman III. Also, the U.S. moved a aircraft carrier to the Baltic Sea last week as part of NATO exercises, which is absolutely insane because the Baltic Sea is very shallow and small. Obviously, that was a show of force to Russia, who is currently planning to invade Lithuania, possibly Poland, and also Latvia and Estonia. So get prepared, guys. Things are really spiraling out of control. What you're looking at here are two high priority strategic aerial refuelers that went across the Atlantic and landed in Rota, Spain. Rota is where we keep all of our B-52s that are stationed in Europe and the Middle East. They stay in Rota most of the time. So these two high priority aerial refuelers, Blue 72 and Blue 62, flew over there to probably assist with refueling various strategic assets, including the B-52s and possibly fighter jets, in their mission to the Middle East to possibly strike Iran. Okay, guys, a dozen B-52s is no joke. Okay, the U.S. officially has like 50 B-52s that are deployed in the nuclear forces, and then they have a few others that are not part of the nuclear triad. But to move 12 of them is huge, okay? Each B-52 can carry up to 16 air-launched cruise missiles that can strike anywhere inside of Iran, okay? Also, there was this Pegasus aerial refueler that took off from New Jersey and flew all the way up into northern Quebec and then turned around and came back. And what this was doing was probably refueling some kind of a bomber that was heading over to the Middle East, and it refueled that bomber over northern Quebec. So this was probably one of the B-52s that took off from Minot, and actually we were tracking these B-52s last night on the live stream. So also we had this Russian Air Force reconnaissance plane fly down to the Caucasus, and this is exactly what Russia did last time right before Israel struck Iran. They flew this Tu-214ON plane, which is an Open Skies Treaty plane. If you don't know what the Open Skies Treaty is, it was a treaty between the U.S. and Russia that would allow either country to fly planes over our missile fields and nuclear bases to inspect for compliance with treaties. And now that all of the treaties with Russia have basically been scrapped, Russia uses their Open Skies plane to provide reconnaissance for themselves and for their allies. So last time when Israel struck Iran, one of these Open Skies planes also flew down here towards the Caucasus. And basically they can function like a AWACS plane, an early warning plane to detect missiles and things like that. So this is very serious, guys. And I want to just play a sound clip of one of these B-52s that was moving over to the Middle East, and this B-52 was communicating with Barksdale. And the reason I can tell it was communicating with Barksdale is Barksdale usually uses the call sign Red River, and it was relaying its coordinates. And based on the coordinates that it was relaying, it was somewhere near Lake Superior, which is along the flight track. If you're a B-52 taking off from Minot Air Force Base in North Dakota, you would fly over Lake Superior and then go over Atlantic Canada and then go over the North Atlantic and land somewhere in the UK or head down to the Middle East that way. So I'm going to play this for you. You can hear the B-52 pilot or co-pilot, whatever, relaying coordinates to Barksdale Air Force Base as it's flying over Lake Superior.
River, bar 2-1 flat, altitude north 5017.2, west 8404.0, over.
So he says north 5017.21840.4.0.
5017.2, west 8404.0, over.
And we were covering this during the 24/7 stream. That's why you got to tune into the 24/7 stream so you can hear all of this happening in real time.
Red River, bar 2-1, west 08401.2, over.
So, very serious situation. We also had a very powerful nuclear war radar broadcasting late last night. And this is an over-the-horizon radar, and it was so powerful. It was coming in really strong here in the U.S., so it was either a U.S. radar or some kind of radar in Europe or in Russia that was really powerful. So the signal was coming in really strong, really clear, and these radars are used to detect and track ballistic missiles from long distances. And here's that earthquake in Iran that I believe was some kind of a nuclear test. So you can see here magnitude 4.6 earthquake, 4.7 kilometers east of Garmsar, Iran. So if you look up Garmsar, Iran on Google Earth, you can see there's a missile range just a few miles southeast of Garmsar. Okay, so Garmsar is up here on the top left, and the missile range is on the bottom here of the picture. So if you just go maybe, I don't know, 5 to 10 miles southeast of Garmsar, you'll see there's these missile test ranges here in the desert. Okay, so I don't think it's a coincidence. I think Iran is testing nuclear warheads as a sign to Israel, trying to scare Israel. And I think Iran is going to change their nuclear doctrine soon and start mass producing nuclear warheads if Israel and the U.S. don't strike the Iranian nuclear facilities first. And here's the seismograph of that 4.6 in Iran, and you can see absolutely zero aftershocks. What's interesting about this is suddenly there's nothing, and then there's a small explosion here, and then there's an even bigger one, which is indicative of a two-stage explosion, which is what happens in a nuclear detonation. Okay, especially if you're testing a fusion weapon, which is what it looks like here. You have to have the first stage to compress the fuel, the nuclear fuel, and then after it's compressed, then you have the main explosion. Okay, so nuclear fusion, if you remember from high school, okay, it's when you fuse atoms together, and when you try to fuse them together or force them together, they become unstable and they set off a chain reaction. So in order to fuse the atoms together, you need intense pressure to do that, and the only way you can do that is with a lot of conventional explosives or with a small fission bomb. Okay, and so fusion weapons, most nuclear warheads today, they have the initial priming charge, which is usually a small fission bomb, basically, that compresses the fuel inside of the warhead, and then once it's compressed, then that sets off the fusion reaction. Okay, so it's actually like two nuclear warheads in one. And so you can see this first smaller detonation here. That's the priming charge, the compression charge, and then you can see the main explosion here. And then what's interesting is after the explosion, there's no aftershocks or anything. Like if you look at an earthquake, a natural earthquake, you'll usually see like aftershocks, you know, for a couple minutes or a good time after. But here you can see the small explosion, then the bigger one immediately, and then nothing after that. Okay, no rumbling, no aftershocks, nothing for like 15 minutes after, which is very unusual for a natural earthquake. So I'm going to say that Iran tested a nuclear weapon last night. I think they tested a fusion weapon, okay? And I don't care if you call that fake news. That's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. And Israel has issued a warning to the Iraqi government that if drone attacks from Iraq persist, or if Iran initiates any assault from within Iraqi borders, the Israeli military will respond with strikes on targets in Iraq. Wow, huge news there. And what's interesting is that on November the 4th, which is tomorrow, in 1979, there was a hostage crisis in Iran where Iranian students seized the U.S. embassy and held it for 444 days. Now, tomorrow will be the 45th anniversary of this hostage crisis, okay, 45 years. So is Iran going to start their attack tomorrow in honor of this hostage crisis? I don't know, guys. It's something to consider. And South Korea, the U.S., and Japan held combined air drills involving at least one B-1 bomber south of the Korean peninsula on Sunday, the South's military said, in a show of force after North Korea's new ICBM launch last week. The trilateral drills took place over waters east of South Korea's southern island of Jeju, amid heightened tensions after the North fired the new Hwasong-19 ICBM into the East Sea on Thursday in its first launch of a long-range ballistic missile this year. During the drills, South Korean, U.S., and Japanese fighter jets escorted the U.S. heavy bomber, over waters where the air defense identification zones of South Korea and Japan overlap, the Joint Chiefs of Staff said. The drills also involved the heavy bomber striking a simulated target in a show of its overwhelming capabilities, according to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. It did not specify the number of B-1s involved. This exercise took place in response to North Korea's launch of an ICBM on October 31st. Amid gradually increasing security cooperation between the three countries, we will strengthen coordination to deter and jointly respond to North Korea's threats, according to the Joint Chiefs of Staff of South Korea. It marked the second air exercise between the three sides this year, the JCS said, amid joint efforts to strengthen trilateral security cooperation against evolving North Korean nuclear and missile threats. Now, North Korea has already put all of their long-range artillery on high alert, and the leader of North Korea met with his nuclear forces and told them to prepare for war. And now they test this ICBM, and South Korea is saying that they're ready to test a nuclear weapon. North Korea is going to be testing a nuclear warhead soon. So things are really spiraling out of control worldwide. And this morning, like I said, lots of tactical nuclear codes being transmitted. These are nuclear codes going out to tactical units, usually airborne units on a mission like B-52s, and they're getting nuclear weapons targeting information, okay? So our nuclear forces are on very high alert. I'm covering it all on the 24/7 stream, and I do have my own radio system so you can hear all of these nuclear codes being transmitted, and I have that connected to the live stream. So I might be back later with another update. Just want to also remind you guys that I'm going to be live all day and all night on Election Day covering the election. So tune in to that. Make sure you follow me on Telegram and Twitter. The links are in the description below this video. I post all my updates to Telegram and Twitter. So if you follow me over there, you'll never miss an update because sometimes YouTube doesn't put out notifications. So until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. And this update was sponsored by My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply has brought back their discount on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you got to go to preparewith.nyprepper.com. The link is in the description below this video. But they have 3 months of freeze-dried food with a 25-year shelf life packed into rugged, watertight buckets that you can easily store in a small room for just $700 with free shipping included, and they ship very fast. Also, they're including some freebies. They're going to include a survival Bible, a 424-page survival book, an ultimate preparedness checklist, a natural disaster field guide. They also have a disaster replacement warranty, so if your food gets destroyed in a natural disaster, they will replace it for you with no cost. And also they have a 30-day return policy, no questions asked. So check out My Patriot Supply. Use the link preparewith.nyprepper.com to get 25% off of their 3-month emergency food supply, free shipping included. And the link is in the description below this video.